Ametrice Moore.
Say it again for the people. That's a beautiful name.
Ametrice Moore.
Ametrice Moore.
My name was made out of a love child. My dad's name is Amos and my mom's name is Teresa, so they put it together and it came out to be Ametrice.
What? I love that. There's a story in that too. You give us bonus tracks today. Okay, cool. And we're gonna get a little bit more in depth on like who brought you to the city. Tell me why you love Naptown.
I love it because it gave me a second chance. It removed me from people, places, and things. I was able to come back. I was able to come here, not only knowing one person, and within that 1 year, I branched out on my own. So coming here from Philadelphia, it was just like a slower pace, and I was away from people, places, and things, and it made me realize my purpose and getting closer to God.
So you said you're from Philly.
Yes.
That's the city of brotherly love, right?
It's supposed to be, yes.
So tell me more about why you said that. Supposed to be. Was it not that for you?
No, I actually moved here because I wanted to bring my children here, even though they are grown. I decided that this was going to be our home for good, but being as though they're in their early 20s, it was hard to bring them here, but I still prepared for in case any emergency that they needed to come.
What does that look like to prepare for a move from Philly, you know what I'm saying, in that time?
I cried. I cried for a whole year straight coming here. I cried. I wanted to go back home because it was out of my norm. I didn't know the bus schedules, the bus, is an hour away or you gotta walk. So I had to get a car. So it was mandatory to get a car here, but in Philadelphia, it's not mandatory to have a car. So that was the big difference. I had to adjust with branching out, and I needed to get myself together. So that's pretty much how.
Do you feel like so one? You said a couple things there. One, you talked about public transportation.
Yeah.
So I'm from the city, grew up here. I got recruited to run track and field at a couple of schools, right?
Yeah.
And something I noticed when I went there was a public transportation. We ain't taking no car. I think we flew out there, and then I didn't need a car.
No, because there's a bus on every corner, and they run like every 5-10 minutes. Here is every hour or half an hour. I never even got to know the bus schedule because once I seen how it was, I just was like, I'm gonna buy a car.
This ain't for me.
I said, this ain't for me. You gonna make me late everywhere I go. So I just went and got a car. I just didn't even deal with the public transportation.
So my question to you, right, is we can focus on something as simple as transportation. But again, you talked about this brotherly love that wasn't very brotherly and sisterly to you, and then you moved to the city. Like that's a transformative experience. You said like it was outside of the perspective of your norm.
Yes.
Do you feel, and just be real, you know what I'm saying? Were there people, places, or things, because you said that's kind of what you moved away from. Mm-hmm. Were there people, places, and or things in the city that helped you transition from the norm of what the city of love that's not so brotherly come to the world's largest small city, that being Naptown? Is there anything to help you make that transition, people, places, and things?
Yes, it was a situation that I wanted to get out of, and I knew I didn't want to go to jail or I didn't want to die. So it was just like I was calling my best friend crying every day, and she like, listen, when you because I was putting my last daughter in college, she was like, when you put Danae in college, just come here. And I put my daughter in college, and the next month I moved here.
Wow. That's a hell of a leap of faith. Shout out to your friend. And the fact that you trusted your friend too to like make that kind of move. I can't imagine what that was like. What school your daughter go to?
She graduated now. She was in Westchester University.
What she said?
Pharmaceutical. So she's a pharmacist. Yes.
I know you proud. She a pharmacist?
Yes.
Oh,
she's only 25.
She's 25 and she's a pharmacist?
Yes.
You gonna need to pray for me. I'm in law school. I'm finna drop out and I'm gonna work with her. I don't know how this thing works, but no, that's amazing. That leap of faith. That's deep. If you could describe Naptown based on your experience alone, in 3 words, what would they be and why?
It's good resources out here. If you want to better your life in Indianapolis, you definitely can. With resources, is really a lot of resources out here. The cost of living is way cheaper than Philadelphia, and the people, the right people. It's some wrong people and the right people, but I just cling to the right people.
But like, describe the people and the qualities of the people that have helped you transition from the city. You know, I'm assuming you grew up in Philly.
Yes.
To like where you are now. Like, tell me some of the qualities of those people and why the people in this city have helped you transition from your hometown to a new town that you now feel like is home.
I became a member of a church as soon as I got here.
Where you go to church, sister?
Zion Hope.
Come on, you go to Zion. Shout out to Zion Hope.
At 42nd and Arlington, I became the member the first year I was there. Between the church and just resources. Like, I use resources like I don't even know how I got I've been in my apartment now for 6 years, and I'm just like, how did you even get here? Like, you didn't even know the drive, you didn't even know how to get around here. Like, how did you do it? But I sometimes, I know I shut down and I'm real private, but I ask questions. At this point, when I worked, I started asking people, do you know where your apartment at? And stuff like that. So I started networking with people that I work with.
Our stories connect. And you a sister from Philly, my girl from Harlem, right? I love my girl. We've been together for 4.5 years. She's bomb.com. Get on my nerves. That's my short. You know what I'm saying? And it's wild, someone from Harlem, New York, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and from Indianapolis, Indiana, can be united, can be brought together around something common. And that's the power of our stories. But if you had to tell somebody why they need to move to the city, you know, they're thinking about moving all kind of different places. Because you move, you feel me? You came from your home to here. If you had to convince somebody else on why to move to the city, what would you say?
It's peaceful. Long as you mind your business, it's peaceful. Don't get caught up. It's resources here because I got them when I first came. The job is a lot of jobs out here that's paid more than Philadelphia, and of course the living is cheaper. I try to get my best friend, I try to get her here, my other best friend from Philly. I've been trying to get her here for years, but my daughter was out here at one time, and she got the stigma that, you know, oh, that's just a, you know, white predominant place, and we don't fit. And I'm like, well, I fit. They like, because your mom is white, that's why you fit. I said, no, I fit because I can deal with different, I deal with all races. I live with all races. I love them, all races. I'm friendly. So I try to get people to come. I told them it's nice here. You get you a car. Like, I ain't had my license when I first got here, and I got a car with no license. I'm like, where they do that at?
Listen.
Where they do that at? You get a car with no license? Where do they do that at? Not in Philly. I was like, what? But now I do. I got my license and everything and got it all situated.
Y'all heard it? Y'all catch that audio?
Yeah, I got my license now. I got my license now. But when I first got here, I didn't. And I was able to go buy a car with no license. And I said, what?
It's different. It's
different. It's way different. I feel like this is the best decision I ever made.
You said your church, Zion Hope, 42nd and Arlington. I ain't gonna give you my address, but I live right around the corner. You live in Speedway?
Yes, but I was.
You driving. Mm-hmm. You going from the west side to the east side.
I love my pastor. Tony McKay, I love my pastor.
Shout out to your pastor. Anything else? I know you talked about Zion Hope, you talked about the people. Is there anything else? Because I know you had also talked about the resources. Can you talk about any of the resources maybe that made it available?
Edna Martin Center. Okay. Workforce One. Yeah, Workforce One. They was really helpful. Like, they gave me the church that I'm in. I went there, you know, when the pandemic started, I went there to try to look for work, and they telling me, like, you don't need work right now. You need to be in church because my son was just murdered. So they like, no, you don't need to be working right now. You need to get your mental. So I ran into a lot of people that just was really, I don't know, God just was putting me in the right place at the right time.
So you just mentioned that your son was murdered. Can you just talk about not how or why he was murdered? Can you talk about how that experience has impacted your experience of the city?
Getting that phone call here at 3:32 on June 24th, June 25th of 2020. Getting that phone call was the worst call I ever got in my life. Like, I literally passed out at work. I was in bed for about 3 months, not eating, not sleeping, not doing anything. And my therapist had said something one day, and he just was saying like, "You're not allowing yourself to heal. You staying stuck." And this one day, his memorial was June 26th of this year. That was the last day. I shed tears for my son, but that was the last time I felt sorry and kept him in limbo. Like, I felt like the more I cried, he's in limbo. I wanted him to rest in peace, so I had to let it go. So I couldn't keep him in limbo because I kept crying and wanting him back when I knew he couldn't come back. So I just had to pick myself back up and realize that he got 2 daughters he left. I got 3 other kids that I have with other grandchildren. So he whispered in my ear, he was like, "Mom, I want you to live." So I've been living.
And one of the wildest things, and this is just in stories, generally, definitely Black stories, like, to go through traumatic experiences is difficult enough, but to be able to go back and break it down, there's gonna be people who watch this video, and they're gonna hear a snippet, just that piece, right? And like, oh my God. But I guarantee there's gonna be another little section of that video where they hear it, and you're just giving people so many learning lessons that simply come from your story. And that's my next question I want to talk about, right? Can you just briefly talk about the power in our stories and like why Black stories specifically our stories, are so important for us to take?
Our stories are so important for us to take because it's like the Black community, I just don't get it. Like, I'm still appalled about it, because my son's life was taken over an argument that they just squashed. It was they went and shook hands, and then it was supposed to be over, and then he came back and murdered my son. So it's just I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It's hard. I take one day at a time. Some days I'm on the floor, some days I'm not. It's just hard. It's just really hard.
What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is his legacy. I want people to remember him. I want people to know his situation, and because he was supposed to be here with me. But a family member stopped it, and that's why I said I have a lot of resentment to people that I'm working on.
But tell us about a story that describes your Naptown experience. Tell us about a story that describes your experience.
I did join a group when my son was murdered called Pain to Purpose, and it helped me tremendously. It was a 12-week course, and that right there helped me tremendously because it didn't just reflect on the pain that I was going through, but it stemmed it in like generational curses, and how you brought up is how you usually come out to be, and a lot of it hit home.
Something that's really special about you, sister? There's a lot of things, for sure. But one of the things that I think is really special about you, I was talking to one of the homies about this yesterday. Now, sometimes because of trauma, especially being Black in the United States of America, because of the trauma that we have, it's difficult to be in a mindset to try and get through something. Because you feel like it broke you to a level you can't come back from.
Right.
But you lost somebody you love. You feel me? It doesn't get much more difficult than that. Yet, when you talk about your experience, and I know it's not nearly as picture perfect as you articulated here, you're 6 years in the making in this city, right? 6 years. Mm-hmm. That's 6 years of obstacles turning to opportunities. That's 6 years of tough circumstances turning into treasure predicaments. That's 6 years of you figuring out who the hell you are in this city. So I know it's not as fantastic as you make it sound. But something that's different about you is the fact that you sound like, even as you was going through something, you was like, I'm not gonna stay here. Was that always the case, or do you feel like that's something that you developed over time?
I developed over time because I remember vividly one night I just couldn't sleep, and the enemy got tormented in my head, and I sat up on the end of the bed and I was just like, I'm about to kill myself. Literally. Like literally get ready to kill myself. And I'm walking, but I don't know what I'm about to do. And then the Holy Spirit said, you're going to bust hell wide open. I went, laid back down and just cried and cried and cried and cried. So, this hasn't been an easy road, not at all. I'm on medication. One day, hopefully, they'll take me off of medication the better I get. And it's just a mess. It's just a mess. It's just a mess.
Well, I'll tell you what. You making a mess was motherfucking fantastic. Let me tell you that.
Everybody tell me that.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
How do they make you feel?
I be like, oh, well, thank you. Like the lady at the church on Sunday, she was like, oh my God, I've been praying for you and you're looking so much better. And I be saying to myself, I had to realize that after she said that, I was like, oh, you probably are doing better. You know, because I have friends that lost their children when I did, and they're gone. Like, they're gone. Like, they're on heavy drugs. It's just, everybody just be saying, I can't believe that you're not on some type of strung out here. And I'm like, no, that's not me. You know, I can't. What's going to happen with my other 3 kids and my 6 grandkids? Well, 5 and 2 on the way. What's going to happen with the grandkids? There's nothing I can do. So I have to live. And like I said, when I was on Mother's Day and I cried, and it was just muffling. My son always had a deep voice. And I just heard this muffling, and I'm like, what is that? And it was my son on Mother's Day, and he was like, Mom, I love you. That right there changed my whole perspective. And then, you know, that was in May, then his 1-year anniversary was in June, and I did not shed a tear on that memorial. Even when the detective called, I did not shed a tear. I did not shed a tear. I just said, okay, it's time for me to live. He wants me to go forth and share the purpose of what happened to him because it could have been avoided.
All right, the city's listening. You feel me? The city's listening. You've been through a lot. You made it through a lot. You got a hell of a story, hell of an experience. You know, like somebody's light is shining through you for sure. You're bright, undoubtedly. But the city's listening. You know, what you got to say to the city?
I would like to tell this city, first of all, women, if you're battling with losing your children to the foster system, please don't allow them to go into the foster system, because the people don't care about them. Once they get old enough, they throw them out. And, you know, that's why I'm striving now to do this thing for the women and children. Now I'm trying to get my business established. Like, love on your kids while they're here. Not just love on them, but when they get taken from you, do not, I repeat, do not stop. Do not do everything they said. Do everything. Go to the classes, go to the meetings, do whatever you have to do to get your kids back. My kids was taken from me from family, and I wasn't even doing wrong. But my kids were taken from me, and then when I had the chance to get my kids back, one of my sons was thrown out to the street. Now my son is 29 years old. He have epilepsy. So I'm dealing with my son having seizures. My 22-year-old was put out, and now he's gone. But he had the opportunity to come back with me, but they didn't do it. My aunt wouldn't let him come with me. My son would still be here today. He will still be in this earth if she wouldn't have been so stubborn. So all I'm gonna say is love on your kids. Do not do whatever they tell you to do, just do it. I did it all and still couldn't get my son. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help each and every woman out there. To God take my breath. I don't care how long it takes, what resources I gotta go through, what I gotta do. I'm gonna help these women keep their kids. Because once the money is gone, they throw them kids out to the street. They throw them kids out to the street. They don't care about them kids, they just care about the money.
No, I definitely appreciate you. Definitely gonna come as you were, sister, you most definitely did. I'll be real. You know, someone from the city, of the city. Glad we got you. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad we got you. I pray that the city what the city is at the end of the day. The city ain't nothing but the people that make it. And I mean, you're not one of the people that make the city what it is. So I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. And that's episode number 2. Our stories, our legacy, our city. Made a flip on the rip on my own, double back to legit with the drip. Put your city on the map. Made a flip off the rip on my own, double back to legit with the drip. Put your city on the map. Miss Lakeisha told me too, you was definitely gonna come as you were. Sister, you most definitely did. And I'll be real. You know, someone who from the city, of the city. Glad we got you. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad we got you. And I pray that the city gives back to you what you've given to it. Because that's what the city is at the end of the day. The city ain't nothing but the people that make it. And I mean, you're not one of the people that make the city what it is. So I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. And that's episode number